If you ask most founders what commercial intelligence means, they'll tell you it's about making smarter decisions or hiring sharper people, but that's not what it is at all. Look, most businesses aren't short on data. You've got dashboards, you track different metrics, you review reports, but here's what actually happens. Marketing says pipeline is up by 20%, sales says lead quality is dropped, and the CFO wants to know why cost per acquisition has jumped. And your Monday leadership meeting, it turns into a 3-hour debate about what the numbers actually mean. And then what happens is 2 weeks later, you still haven't made a decision. That's not a people problem, that's a systems problem. So in this video, I'm going to show you what commercial intelligence actually is, why the common understanding is completely wrong, and the exact 3-part system that we use with our clients to cut decision cycles from weeks to days. And if you stick around until the end, I'll give you a really simple document that walks you through how to implement this into your own business. All right, let's start with what is commercial intelligence. It's the systematic practice of converting data into signals that trigger pre-wired decisions. Let me break that down because each part matters. Systematic means it's repeatable. It's not heroics. It's not gut feel. It's a process you can design and improve over time. Converting data into signals means you're not tracking everything. You're identifying the specific metrics that tell you something is revenue critical and it's happening. Pre-wired decisions means that the signal appears, you already know what to do. So there's no debate, there's no meetings, the decision is already made. So now here's where most people get confused. When founders hear the term commercial intelligence, they think it means be smarter, like hiring with better business judgment. Like we need people with better business judgment, or developing sharper instincts. That interpretation treats intelligence as cognitive ability, so IQ or cleverness, and that's completely wrong. The term intelligence works exactly like it does in, let's say, the military, because intelligence used in the military doesn't mean our soldiers are all smart. It means we have processed information about enemy positions that informs our tactical decisions. We know how to tactically approach this. So here's the critical distinction. Being smart is about personal capability. Having commercial intelligence is about systemic capability. So being smart depends on people and commercial intelligence depends on systems. So being smart leaves when people leave. Commercial intelligence stays and compounds in your business. So here's the breakthrough. You don't need to outthink your competitors. You need to outsystem them and make sure there's enough feedback loops. Now, this is the framework that we use with all of our clients to cut decision cycles from weeks to days, not theory, actual implementation. Let me show you what it looks like in practice. Let's say you're running a company doing 6 million in revenue, you're spending 30,000 a month on Google, LinkedIn, Meta, and leadership keeps asking what's working. Or let's say your investors or your board keep asking that question. And you honestly don't have a clear answer for them. So you spend 3 days pulling reports from each of these different platforms. You build a very professional presentation deck and you finally present it in your monthly review. The CFO says the numbers don't actually match what finance is seeing. Sales says the lead quality has been terrible lately. And then marketing says, well, actually, MQLs are up 15%. So the meeting ends up with, we'll just dig into this more next week. And nothing actually changes. You keep spending the same budget on the same channels. Now, here's what happens with commercial intelligence. So the opposite. You log in on Tuesday morning and you can see cost per lead by channel, close rate by channel, and pipeline value by source. Everything in one source of truth. Same definitions, same timeframes, no reconciliation needed. And the second you see it, the decision is so obvious. LinkedIn costs twice as much, converts at half the rate, and generates a fraction of the pipeline value. So it's really simple. You shift budget and you test it for 30 days and measure the result. So this decision just happened in 90 seconds instead of 3 weeks. And By the way, the scenarios I'm giving you here, these aren't theory. This is the exact system that we roll out with our clients and for our own business. We've built it into CoreOS, which is our commercial intelligence platform. It's powered by AI. And there's a free version that you can jump into if you want to start applying this level of thinking to your own business. And I'll share the link at the end of this video. But what I want to do now is I want to walk you through our 3-step process. So step 1 is converting data into signals. You see, most teams, they track everything: pipeline coverage, MQL volume, demo conversion, email open rates, LinkedIn impressions. They've got 47 metrics reviewed monthly. And when you ask them which 3 numbers would actually tank this business if they broke, they can't tell you. And that's a massive problem. A signal isn't just a metric. A signal tells you something revenue critical is happening. So here's the test. Ask yourself, if this number stayed bad for 60 days, would we miss the revenue target? If the answer is yes, well then it's 100% a signal. But some common examples that we see with some of our B2B clients is they're not tracking signals. So I'll give you a couple of examples of ones that they're using. Pipeline coverage ratio, cost per lead by channel, and close rate by source. There are 3 really good ones, 3 common ones that we implement with our clients. And let's say with direct to consumer clients, it's usually total marketing efficiency, a contribution margin after ads, and repeat purchase rate. Again, another 3 good ones to watch out for. Now, here's the difference between a metric and a signal. So a metric is just a number, like pipeline coverage is 2.8x. A signal is what the number means, like pipeline coverage dropped below our safety line. And if it stays there, we're going to miss our quota. So the metric tells you what's happening. The signal tells you what it means and whether action is actually needed. So here's what you do next. You pick 3 core signals and get them written down in one place and share them with the leadership team. When you do that, you create sort of an initial alignment across leadership teams, like sales, marketing, your finance team, because you've agreed what actually matters. So moving on now to step 2, which is connecting signals to decisions. So if you remember, in step 1, you picked the signals. Step 2 is where you remove any interpretation, because a signal is only useful if everyone agrees what it means and what happens next. So for each signal, you want 3 different zones. You've got the healthy zone, so if it's in green, the watch it, I usually mark this in amber, and then act now, which is in the red. So the traffic light system. The key is you decide those zones in advance, not in the moment, because if you don't, every leadership meeting turns into opinions instead of decisions. If you want to take this away and, let's say, apply it, bring these questions into your next leadership meeting. I promise you they're going to make a massive difference. When the signal turns bad, how long are we willing to tolerate it before we step in? Really good question to ask. Who owns the decision when it happens? Is it like which team member is going to own that decision? Which leader? And what's the first action we take the moment it hits red? So do scenario planning, have a game plan as to what you're going to do. If you can answer those questions for each signal, you'll feel speed increase immediately, and you'll have a lot more reassurance that things are going to go into red throughout your business journey, unless you're very lucky. But I think the vast majority of businesses go through elements of trial and error in our experience. But this just gives you that safety net that you have pre-planned this. Okay, moving on to step 3 is turning decisions into action. So in step 2, you've agreed that what healthy looks like and what bad looks like, your growth bottlenecks, your growth levers, and what triggers action. Step 3 is where you stop we'll talk about this next week behavior, because that's where most momentum dies. This is where most leadership teams, they just slow down. A signal goes red, everyone agrees it's a problem, and then the default response is to discuss it. So instead of doing anything, and that's the problem. If you discuss it without doing anything, you're just wasting the business's time. So that's how small issues, they start turning into big ones. And here's the fix. You decide your response ahead of time. For every core signal, you define what you do when it hits red, and you also define what you do when it stays in green. Red signals show your bottlenecks, green signals show your levers, and you don't need anything complicated here. For each signal, write down 3 actions and assign an owner at each one, and give it a deadline. Not a strategy deck, not a planning session, just the first 3 moves you're willing to make immediately. So let me give you an example. Let's stick with pipeline coverage, quite a popular one. If it drops into the danger zone, you might shift sales focus to higher value accounts, you might reallocate spend into what's already working, or you might tighten your demo to opportunity conversion. But if it stays strong and it builds, that's a lever too. You can push harder on that segment, or that's closing faster, or increase spend on the channel that's converting best, or scale the offer that's already winning. So you can look at it from 2 lenses, from when things are in the red or when things are in the green, you should still be making quick, nimble decisions. So it's a real shift. When your signals change, you're not starting from scratch, you're executing decisions the leadership team already agreed on, which is how you move faster when things go wrong, and you scale harder when things go right. So again, here's the flow, just to go through it again. Data becomes signals, signals trigger decisions, decisions turn into action. And commercial intelligence only exists when all 3 parts are fully connected end to end. And here's the part that most people miss. The power isn't just in the system, it's in the feedback loop. Because every time you make a decision, you get a result. And that result teaches you whether your threshold was right, whether your response was the right one, and whether the signal you picked even mattered in the first place. And that's how this starts compounding over time. The first time you do it, it's going to be a bit of trial and error. You'll make a call, you'll learn fast, you'll adjust the thresholds and tighten the actions and get a cleaner view the next time. But after a few months, you're not arguing about numbers anymore. You're building a playbook of what actually works in your business, with your market, with your team. And that's really the real edge here. Other companies, they're stuck debating what the data means. But you're actually running faster feedback loops, making better calls, faster calls, and improving the system every single week. And that's the impact. So here's the real reason this matters, because most companies, they're not limited by their market. They're limited by their decision speed. It's the whole, if you take anything away from this video, it's that, your decision speed. You spot a problem in January, you debate it in February, you plan in March, you execute in April. It's not really the right way to do it. Because meanwhile, let's say a competitor sees the same signal in January and acts by mid-January. Over a year, they run 3 full cycles while you're still trying to finish the second. That's not about being smarter. It's about running faster feedback loops, faster cycles of action and learning. So if you do nothing else, start with step 1. Pick the 3 signals. As I said, that will tell you whether the business is healthy or heading for trouble, and get your leadership team aligned on them. Like, really pull in all the different leaders that are responsible for commercial growth. That alone will change how fast you move. And if you want help implementing this properly, we've actually built a really helpful document that you can go through. But we also have a free version of CoreOS that lets you map your signals, set your thresholds, and track your actions. So I'll attach both the links to CoreOS and the document, and you can go and basically implement this into your own business. So I hope this is helpful. If it was, please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.